So the main new feature of Virtual DJ2023 is Stems 2.0. And I pretty much assume that you already know what stems are, but let's just go through it really quick. It's all about separating the music into parts that you can then turn on and turn off. So vocals, instruments, bass, kick and hi-hat. And that separation is done directly in the software, and if your laptop is powerful enough, it can be done live. But before we go into that, let's listen to what the result sounds like.
Put your pinky rings up to the moon. Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24 karat magic's in the air. Head to toe, so clear. Look out. I bet they know as soon as we walk in. Shut up. I'm wearing Cuban links, designer mix, Inglewood's finest shoes. Whoop, whoop. Don't look too hard, might hurt yourself. Known to give the color red the blues.
So as you can probably hear, it's much cleaner than the old version that came out with Virtual DJ 2021. So then the first thing you notice is probably that this pad page that I've been clicking is new. It's called Stems 2.0. and it has a little differences in the pad section. So instead of just having the 5 parts, it now has some combined parts that I've been using in the clip just before, called acapella and instrumentals. That basically just puts these into packs. So the acapella, just the vocals, and the instrumental style, just the rest of them. So that's a little change, and it's very practical to have. And the stems effects are also still there, which means that I can click those on like this. So for instance, now it's set to vocal. So if I then enable, for instance, the echo vocal, it will only be on the vocals like this.
Put your pinky rings up to the moon. Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24 karat magic in the air.
Like that. And that was actually the same as the old version. It's just been moved a spot. So the effects are basically the same on this pad page. There are also other pad pages that has come out that combines a little bit different and does some other stuff. And I'll show those in another video. Yet another thing that has happened is that this doesn't really do much anymore, but there's a little tick here. So the difference is that there's no bleed settings here anymore. And according to the developers, that's because it's good enough. So you don't need these bleed settings. And then there's a little tick that actually means that Virtual DJ is ready to handle stems at the moment, wherever you are in the track. So, but I'll get back to that in later in the video. You can also still do these EQ based stems if you like. That's just like before, except that it's using the way better stems now. And the same with the filter knob. You can set to vocals, exactly the same, like this. And you can also see it affecting the pad page. So again, exactly the same as version 1, except that it's much better quality now. So like I said, you need a pretty powerful laptop to be able to do stem separation 2.0 effectively live. And Virtual DJ knows this, so when you open it up the first time, or if you don't click this to make it go away, it'll tell you if your laptop is not powerful enough. So in this case it's not, because it says here, in order to run in real time, this new engine requires modern hardware like a NVIDIA RTX graphic card or an Apple M1 chipset, which this specific computer that I'm on right now does not have. So that's good information. And also, if you look into the settings, let's do that really quick. We'll get back to them. You go into performance here, and you can see that it'll automatically have set the real-time separation to reduced quality. So that means that it'll actually use the old engine to separate the stems, the 1.0 engine. That's what the produced quality is. Also note that there's no more math engine here. So that's a little hidden. Before you didn't really know what math engine was about, even though it was actually the engine handling the stem separation. So now it's much more clear because it's all called stems, something with stems here. So reduced quality is the old version, enabled is the new version, disabled, of course, disable it entirely. And I'll get back to the other settings in a second. But first, let's look at some hard numbers here, because like it said, it's all about getting the NVIDIA GPUs. So these are some numbers taken from the Virtual DJ homepage, the forum there, and it shows how fast the separation is happening. So you need the GPU because they can do parallel processing, right? That's good for machine learning or deep learning, which is what the stem separation is based on. And this is approximately how fast the separation is going to happen on these different types of NVIDIA GPUs. So what does 5 times means? It means that it's separating 5 times the playing speed. That also means that if you have look at the total time of the track, you can divide it by 5 to get the separation time. So 5 times here, and the best one down here, 30 times faster. So if you look at Mac, the numbers look something like this. On the M1 hardware, the separation speed is around 12 times the playing speed, and on the M1 Pro, it's around 20 times, and on the M2, it'll be somewhere in between those. And also worth noticing, the stems 2.0 require macOS, Monterey, or newer than that. So if you compare it, the RTX 3080, that was the top one on the last list, is about 50% faster than an M1 Pro. But it's also worth noting that this doesn't really matter. It don't need to wait for the entire time for it to finish before you can use it. But we'll get back to that later in the video. So let's go back to the settings. And the stem settings are on performance now. So like I said, there's no more math engine. That's only these 4 stems settings. Of course, some of the other ones, that's looking at how many resources and latency and stuff like that the virtual DJ should work with, will also affect what stems can do. But for pure stems settings, there's these 4. So we'll go through them. The first one we had already looked at a little bit. So because that's set to reduce quality, that means that it's currently running with the stem separation 1.0 instead of the new, much better one, which will 2.0, which will work if you set that to enabled. But my laptop can't really handle that, with the Virtual DJ detected, so they set it to reduce quality. And that's also in bold now, because that's the default on this particular laptop. You can also set it to disabled, then there's no stem separation on this laptop, and that's a bit like setting the math engine to disabled on the old version. But we'll bring it back to reduced quality. Then there's saved stems. That's all about saving the stems automatically once they've been separated, if you do the live separation. But it has a little caveat, which we'll get back to in a second. Then there's stems allow reduced quality, and that has ask and always. And you basically probably want to set that to always if you're using reduced quality, and also show why in a second. And then there's the 4th one. That's the funny one. Stems fix. And it basically says, if your computer is a little too old, try one of these options. And like you can see, it's already detected and set the first one, don't use GPU. That's because the laptop doesn't have a GPU, so that's pretty good, and we'll just leave it at that. Then there's the lower priority. That's basically if your virtual DJ is suffering, or your entire laptop is suffering a little bit because of the stem separation, then you can tell virtual DJ to prioritize a little bit lower, and then maybe have it happening anyway. So I've never had to set that myself, but it's there. And then there's the 3rd one, prepare with reduced quality. And that is if you use the prepare feature for stems that we'll get back to in a little bit. Then you can set that to also allow reduced quality. If you don't set that, then if you prepare, even when set to reduced quality, because that's for the real-time separation, then it'll always do the 2.0 slower separation that your laptop may not lack too well. So if you want the prepared ones that we'll get back to also be done with reduced quality, then you click this one. I'll also show that in an example in a second. So first example is about ask versus always, because we'll just stick to the reduced quality because enable my laptop here can't really handle, and that's pretty self-evident what that will happen. But with reduced quality, it's a little bit more mix and match what will happen with the other ones. So we stick with reduced quality, and then we say ask. So when it's in that mode, let's see what happens. So I'm in reduced quality mode. So I just grab a track and I put it on a deck. And I play it maybe. And then I play with the stems. And it'll ask me, this track does not have saved stems. Do you want to prepare stems or use reduced quality? Well, I already chose to do reduced quality, but because I put in ask, it'll ask me this every single time I try to use stems on a track. So let me just change that to always instead of ask and do it again. And unload the track, load it again, play it, and do some stems work. And no, it doesn't ask, no, it just happens because if it has already separated this track because it's the old version. So what you can also see is that the pad page changes. So it says stems fast. That's the reduced quality version. And it also reintroduced the bleed settings that you know from this 1.0 version of the stems, right? So now it's all back to 1.0 and it doesn't ask, it just works with 1.0 because I've set the settings like this. So then there's the saved stems setting. And like I mentioned, that's all about getting the separated stems saved automatically. Right now it's set to manual, but if I set that to automatic, it should save the separated stems. But that will actually only work in real-time. Separation is set to enabled, not reduced quality. So if I set that to reduced quality instead, like is pretty much the only usable setting on this laptop, and I try doing this, for instance with this one, it'll compute the stems, and it'll be pretty fast. Now it's done. It'll be minutes if I use the new version on this specific laptop that doesn't have a GPU, right? So then I would assume if I right click and go into file operations and open an Explorer, then I would have a version of this surfing track here as the latest one, but I don't. This is an old separated track, so it hasn't saved it because, like I said, the automatic save only works for the new 2.0 version. If I want this to be saved, I should instead right click and say save prepared stems. But wait a minute, because the other setting, this setting, the reduced quality setting is only for real-time separation, and when I'm preparing it like for saving, that's not going to be real-time, right? That's not going to be because I loaded on a deck. So that'll actually return to the 2.0 version, which is too slow for my laptop in general. Of course, it'll still work because it has all the time in the world to prepare. But if I wanted to save pretty fast, because I want to save the old 1.0 version, then I need to allow it to prepare with reduced quality too. So I'll set that to here. So now I can right click and say save prepared stems and get it done pretty fast. So within a few seconds on this old laptop. I have to remember it also I need to store the file, so it takes a little bit longer than just separating it. And now when I go in here and go into file operations again, open an Explorer, now you can see now I have my separated track stored. And just for comparison, I'll remove this again, and then I'll do the save. So we'll do the preparation, but in the new version 2.0, so you can see the time difference. So I'll pick the top one here and say save prepared stems, and just let it run. And as you can already see, that's going to take a long time because it's now doing the 2.0 separation, even though I've set the performance to reduced quality because the prepare with reduced quality is not set. So it's starting a little bit, now it's 13%. I'll just let it finish and then speed up the video a little bit. So now it's done, but that took, in real time, that probably took close to 2 minutes. But now it's done, and you can actually see with this little dot here that it has stems, and this little dot, blue dot, only shows if it's 2.0 stems, so the new version of stems. That also means if I try loading this track with prepare stems, and I use it, it'll stay on stems 2.0, and that means that it's using the new version of stems. It's not the old one. If it was the old one like you saw before, it would say stems fast and it would have the bleeding setting here. So right-clicking the track and selecting Save Prepared Stems is not the only way to prepare stems. It's actually probably not going to be the most common way, because there's also a new folder called stems down here. And you can see it's a little different because it's purple. That's never been seen before, I think. And it has a folder and a subfolder. And the folder is just like a drop zone, and then whatever it has already prepared is in the prepared folder. And of course, this is not the only place you can see these tracks. Wherever these tracks are around everywhere else in your lists, in your playlists, in your filter folders or whatever, it'll show up with these icons if it has stems 2.0 already prepared. What you can also see is there's a few on here that only has the regular icons, so that's also prepared, but only with 1.0. So if I load one of these tracks and play it, and use the stem feature, you can actually see it stays on stems 2.0. So that means it was prepared with the new version, which is also indicated by this little blue dot, right? But if I load one of the other ones that doesn't have the dot here, and I use the stems on it, you can say it immediately changes to stems fast and enables the bleed feature because it's using the old prepare method. It's using the old 1.0 stem separation. And that's of course handled by the settings. So if we go back to into the settings here, if the setting is set to reduce quality, and prepare with reduced quality is the important one here, then it'll prepare with reduced quality. So let's try doing that live. So I'll set that, and I'll go back here, and I'll go into to just another folder maybe, and I'll just click a track and put it into stems. And now it's doing the separation. You can see it happening, and it's pretty fast. You already know on this laptop, a stem separation that's with 2.0 will be a couple of minutes, and this one will be probably about 10-15 seconds on this particular laptop, including the saving it into a stems file. So let's just wait for it to finish. And now it's done, and it's been removed because it's been moved into this one where it's already done, right? So this was the bucket one here. So you can see by the missing little dot that this will be a 1.0 separate file. And if I load it up here and click one of the stems, it'll say stems fast. Now, if I turn the setting into the 2.0 setting, by removing prepare with reduced quality. And then do the same thing again. Just go in and grab another file, just maybe this one, put it in here. You can again see the stem separation starting to happen, but it's really, really slow. It'll be a couple of minutes. Just watch it start, and then I'll speed up the video until it has finished. And now it's finished, so it got removed from here, from the drop zone, if you will, and then it got put into the prepared one. So if we look at bucket again, have this new one, Love Disco, and it actually has the little green dot because it's been prepared with the new 2.0 version. That also means if I load the track and I click one of the stems, you can see it stays on 2.0 because this is actually a 2.0 separated stems file, right? So that's the way you can tilt that, and what you can do prepared stems both with reduced quality and with the real quality. And like I said, if I now go back to this folder, the bucket folder, you can see only one of them. The Wheel of Disco one has the little blue dot. This is another blue dot. So the little blue dot for stem separation, because that's the only one that's been separated for 2.0. So that means that if I go back to prepared here, look at bucket again, you see the Hippo Disco King. If I look back to the folder here, Hippo Disco King, is that one? This one? That won't have the 2.0 separation, so it won't have the dot. But you can actually still tell the difference, because if I right click at that, you can see it says recompute stems, and if I right click on the one above it, which has never been exposed to stem separation, it says save prepared stems. So the other one, the one we saw previously. So you can still tell the difference if you right click, but the little blue dot here is only going to be for the 2.0 prepared stems. So going back to this folder, this prepared folder, and the 1.0 versus 2.0 stem separations, you can see, like I said, the blue dots, but that also means there are some that doesn't have the blue dot. Like if you right click one of with the blue dot, you can tell it to delete the stems, and then it'll delete the stem file, and it'll be deleted from the list. But you may also have the 1.0 ones, either because you've set it to reduce quality or because they're left over from the old version of Virtual DJ. If you right click that one, you can either tell it to delete it, but you can also tell it to recompute stems to get the 2.0 recomputed ones. And if you basically just want to delete a bunch of them, you can just mark them, right click, and then you can say remove, then remove all these stems files so you don't have those anymore. But that's a way to remove the old ones, remove all of them, or maybe recompute the old ones to get them up to 2.0. So what settings am I going to use for stem separation? Well, on this particular laptop that can't really handle the real-time separation, the live separation if you will, I'm probably going to go with a mix and match setup. So I'm going to use the reduced quality for real-time separation. That means that it can actually handle the stem separation within like 10 seconds, not like 2 minutes like you saw before. So it'll be ready to use the lower quality stem separation for tracks that I haven't prepared. Then I will not use the save stems here, automatic save stems. I will handle that manually. And then I'll set the stems allowed reduced quality to always, so it doesn't always ask me, like that. And then I don't use TPU, of course, because I don't have a TPU. But then I won't use the prepare with reduced quality, because this mix and match situation will actually allow me to, when I grab a track and put it on a deck, it'll just do the real-time separation in a reduced quality, and I can use that with the old quality that I've been using for a couple of years. But if I choose to put it into the stems folder to have it separated and wait for a while, or if I right-click to prepare it, then it'll use the 2.0 separation, which is a lot better quality. So I'll probably have a collection of files that I often use the stem separation on, that'll be prepared with a great quality. But then if I'm live DJing and I just throw tracks onto the deck that's not prepared, and I still click one of the stems features, it'll just use the old reduced quality. So I'm kind of getting the best of both worlds. I'm getting speed, and I'm getting stems, and I'm getting quality when I can afford to spend the time to prepare them. Okay, so now we know that the stem separation 2.0 is really, really cool, but it's also kind of hard on your laptop unless you had a good GPU, right? Which this laptop doesn't have. So can't you use the 2.0? Well, yes, you actually can, even for the real-time separation, if you know how it works a little bit. So let me put it back to enabling 2.0. So now we're in 2.0 mode, which is going to be really slow on this laptop, like a couple of minutes. You showed that before, right? So I'm going to load a track, and it has 2 cue points, and you can see it starts separating. So it actually starts spinning here, which is the tick I was mentioning earlier. And when that tick is done, in a few seconds, and it returns to its tick, then it's actually ready for separating the stems at the cue point I'm at. But not only that, if I then let it run, then it'll start separating at the other cue points. So even though I'm now back here, if I jump up here, it doesn't work, right? But because I'm near a cue point, it actually starts separating here. So here it won't work. But around this cue point, or if I actually click the cue point, it'll work. And you can see the little tick because it's preparing the stems first around the cue points. So that's pretty cool, because that means that if you do some normal DJing, like normal mixing, you'll probably do that around a cue point, because you want to set a cue point, maybe a hot cue, maybe a regular cue, and then play from there a few times and then do the mix. And just that little prepare period, maybe like 10-15 seconds, will be enough for you to have the separation done. And if you're only using the separation to actually doing the mixing, so you'll need it for 10-15 seconds, and you see the little tick here, then you'll be fine. You'll be good to go. So that means that even on this extremely slow computer, when it comes to stem separation 2.0, it can still work for regular DJing, even if I jump to other cue points. So I set a new cue point here, for instance, and see, it doesn't work. It's still spinning, and I cue it, let it stay there for a little while, the cue point, and I got a tick, and I play again, and now stem separation works. At that particular place in the track. And it'll of course keep working. So if you test that a couple of times and then just use the stem separation for maybe 10 seconds or in a little loop to do your beat mixing or whatever, then you'll be fine doing this 2.0 stem separation, even on really slow laptops with no GPU in them to help it. So this was my first longer video on the Stems 2.0 in Virtual DJ2023, but I'll probably do more videos. I have some planned for instance, other Stems pad pages that you can get, also on the actual format that the separated stems get stored in that you can use in other situations, and also maybe on doing karaoke files, karaoke videos based on the stem separation and some other features. So you can actually create karaoke files only based on Virtual DJ. So stay put for some of these videos later down the line.